Well, we do have a quorum and it is 6:30. So I'm Harriet Davis, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order and to indicate this is a virtual meeting on Zoom, recorded, and roll call. Let me put it the other way. All votes will be taken by roll call. Item 2 on our agenda is public comment. Is there
Wait a minute,
anyone?
Rick, I'm sorry, Rick Woodland's not here either.
Rick is here.
Well, I don't see him.
I see him. He's waving his
Okay.
hand.
Sorry. I'm gonna put everybody into view.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. Sorry.
All right. So we are still missing Susan Malin and Alden. Is that correct?
I just sent Susan a text.
Could I ask a question, technical question? This is Rick. Joe, I see people who aren't members on the screen. Did they
Yep,
just jump
that's
off?
good.
Yes, they are presenters for tonight, so they were given panelist links in case they need to share their screen for their presentations.
Thank you. I'm just clarifying.
Right. Alden is here. Welcome.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So we're only waiting for Susan. I'm sure she was planning to come. So as I said, it's a Zoom recorded virtual meeting, all votes by roll call. And that's item 1. Item 2 is the public comment. Joe, is there anyone that you see wants to speak?
Yep, so let me just take a quick look here. Nope, not that I'm seeing, Madam Chair, but Susan Malin is here. I'm just going to promote her to a panelist right now.
Okay, good. Good. So it is just Mary Wood who is not with us. She's in Arizona. She will be here for our next meeting. Therefore, the next item on the agenda is the review of our January 26, 2023 meeting minutes, which I think you all have a copy of. Can I have a motion to accept them?
Chairman, I move we approve them as written.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
And are there any comments or corrections?
Motion
Hearing
was-
none, are we ready to vote? Trudy,
Yes.
John? You're muted, John.
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes,
Janet,
Yes.
Susan Malin,
Yes.
Alden.
I wasn't present. Am I allowed to? I read the minutes, but I wasn't present.
It can be
This
so
was just
noted.
last week? This was just last week's meeting, right?
This was
Yes.
January 26th. I'm
That's right.
sorry. No, it was earlier.
Mr. Chairman,
Alden,
I think.
I have abstained in the past before, Alden, when I'm not at a meeting.
Mr.
Yeah, I'll
Chairman?
abstain.
Recorded.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I think that if a member says if a member wasn't at the meeting and he says he saw it on recorded on his television later on, I would think he should be able to vote.
I'll abstain in
can-
this situation.
I also approve these minutes, so therefore they are approved. So let's move on to our first presentation from the town of Wenham on the town hall renovation project debt. And who is speaking on that?
I believe the town administrator is here.
Yeah, I'll speak to that.
Okay. If you'd identify yourself.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Steve Poulos, Town Administrator.
Okay. We're ready to hear your presentation.
Yeah, just a brief presentation. This is something that comes before the CPC every year. It is the debt service that is attached to the long-term debt that was issued back in 2015 to renovate the town hall. The associated debt service for the upcoming fiscal year will be $112,725.
Mhm. Okay. I might also make the point that that 2015 date was a refinancing date. That it had
Okay.
been issued probably in 08 or 09. The building was finished and dedicated in 08. And also, just for clarification, we are not required by the bond to pay the debt service. Some people may think that were the case, and it is in certain circumstances, but not here. The bond interest is a full responsibility of the town of Wenham. Now, if we don't, so we're not obligated to pay it, but we always have. I suspect we always will. And if we don't, it goes on the tax rate.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Leo.
this is an application we've approved every year, and I think it's an important application, and it's a good application, and I would like to move that we approve it.
Well,
And I would hope
actually,
somebody
at
would
this
s-
point,
I would hope
we're
somebody
simply
save
hearing,
some time
Leo.
and second it.
Leo, at this point, we're just hearing the presentations. And then at a future meeting, we will vote the full amount or any amount. But at this point, this is time for anybody else to ask any questions about this. If anyone has any questions.
I have no questions, and I agree with Leo's comments.
Susan?
I have no questions.
Oh, I thought you were raising your hand.
No, I'm just trying to see who's here.
I see. Okay. All right. Steve, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on. I believe the next application we're going to hear is from the Open Space and Recreation Committee. Ernest Ashley, Chair. Is he present?
Thank you very much, Chairman
Mhm.
Davis. If I may, I would like to present a few slides and have a very short presentation.
Okay.
And let's see if I can get this to work. Well, we'll go back up through the slides quickly.
Well, while Ernest is preparing, could I ask a question, Madam Chairwoman?
Sure.
Is somebody keeping track of the time? We
I
did
can if
allow
Joe-
20, we did allow
I
20
can.
minutes per
Right.
presentation.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do you see my cover slide?
No.
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 Excuse me?
No,
No,
Oh,
you
let's
need
see
to,
if we
you
can
need to share your screen.
try that again. And share screen. And
Joe, is Ernest, oh, there we go.
Yep.
Okay, there, very good. Thank you for this opportunity to present our request for some funding for the West Wenham Park project. The images on the right are a typical example of a type of pavilion or structure that we are requesting funds for the park. And let me see if I can page down. Yes. So why invest in the West Wenham Park? The Open Space and Recreation Committee did a plan in 2019 that allowed us to identify some goals through the town. And we have objective statements and some specific actions based on those. So one of the goals was to provide and maintain the facilities and resources for active recreation for the residents. And an objective statement to that was to improve and maintain the existing parks and playgrounds for those. So one of the specific actions identified for those objectives was to identify locations and install some amenities at these parks that could improve their usefulness. And so based on these goals, objectives, and action statements, we identified the neglected facilities at the West Wenham Park as an area that the Open Space and Recreation Committee wanted to focus on. And you may recall that we requested and received funds for a feasibility study for improvements to this park. So what is the park now? Well, it's on Route 97, not far from the intersection of Cherry Street and 97, but it's hard to find as there are no signs and there's really inadequate parking. There's some topographical limitations in that the land rises quickly from 97, so you don't actually see a lot of the amenities that are there. But the sport facilities, a tennis court and basketball court, are in some poor condition. It does not have access to the upper areas. There right now is no shelter or place to gather and no toilet facilities. But what it does have is very good access to the adjacent property of the Cedar Ponds Wildlife Sanctuary. So what we did was a survey to ask what people were interested in specifically for these things. And we note that West Wenham is a fairly densely populated part of the town, but really underserved recreationally. And so these were on the right, some of the ideas that were generated for work on that property. And walking and fitness trails adjacent to the Audubon were highlighted, but also sport courts, a playground, perhaps a mountain bike track. A dog park was originally considered because of the potential for some matching funding, but it was not identified as highly. And then a gathering space or picnic facilities. So upgrading the facility will serve the community and help attract other people to this area. And one of the things we found was that it really would be a unique feature to have something like a pavilion and picnic areas where people could use for gathering with friends, families, or events. And this would be something that really could be used throughout the community. So we generated, with the assistance of the BSC group in the feasibility study, a plan which we feel has very economical additions to the park that would first and foremost make it ADA universally accessible, would add parking spaces and create a total of 22 parking spaces. And that what we're talking to the CPC about is to create a picnic area with a community pavilion, tables and grills or something similar, so that it would create that communal space. We're also looking to resurface the current sports court, perhaps adding 4 pickleball courts instead of that 1 tennis court there, and something called a bicycle pump track, which again, I wanted to emphasize the economics here. We looked at skateboard parks, we looked at other things. A bicycle pump track would basically be sculpted dirt that we could use. So this is a crowded slide, but we have applied for and been authorized for several of the American Recovery Plan Act funds, and we would use that for infrastructure. What we wanted to do next was to add this anchoring type of structure, the pavilion and picnic spaces that would really make the park usable for families and groups. We have estimated the total cost of the park may be as much as $820,000, but we have 175 from the ARPA funds, and we will be asking for the 125 from CPC. And down at the bottom of the page is a budget that was created by the feasibility study. And we will be looking for additional funding sources. I want to add that in the following slide. So we have a plan for a phased implementation. The ARPA funds will enable all of the infrastructure improvements of the parking area, the accessibility, and those sort of things. The CPC funds would be used to construct the pavilion and picnic facilities. So these are now independent. And then we will seek approval for partial capital funding at town meeting. We understand that this is going to be a difficult year because of the increased taxes, but we are trying to present a very reasonable proposal. We will also apply for the state park grant with up to $100,000 and then seek donations and volunteer labor. So we are engaged the community in fundraising to basically finish all the final touches to the park. And with that, I really appreciate your time, and we can provide these slides as well as the application we submitted to the CPC committee.
Thank you, Ernst. I see Kate Mallory is on the call. Does she have anything to add?
You still have
Hi,
13
Harriet.
minutes.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. I don't know how I can do better than Ernest there. This was a really good wrap up of this project. I just wanted to stress that, you know, we really did a lot of community outreach for this. So with the open space plan that was done before I got here, there was a lot of contribution from the community through that plan. And this was considered something that was very important to the town. And then after I got here and we worked on this together, there was surveys done, there were emails sent out. We had Sean Timmons was wonderful to share his email list from the community to recreation people to make sure that we were doing the right thing that the town wanted. So yes, this is an area that's not used now, but this is an area that really could be used and served if it's a unique destination. That's what we kept hearing over and over is people want a unique destination. So through all of that community outreach and engagement, we really found that if we did something different in this area that is really recreationally underserved, that people would come. You know, if you build it, they would come. So I think with the picnic area, the pump track, the pickleball, it really would be a wonderful spot for the community.
Thank you, Kate. Going back to the committee, does anyone have any questions? Yes, Rick.
I have a couple. Could you speak to just the passive recreation in the space? I see the pavilion, the open fields. What were some of your ideas for the passive recreation space there?
Thank you, Rick. A walking path, possibly some exercise equipment like park horse. Some not so passive recreation was something called a GABA ball pit, which is kind of a middle school age game where they're in an octagonal pit and they're playing similar to bombardment where you can knock the ball around. And one of the things that we stressed was that this would provide play areas for a underserved age group, the kids that have graduated from getting off of the elementary school playground and say Patton Park's playground, but they're still not driving their cars yet. So something like that was considered.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question? Yes,
Chairman.
Alden. Alden, we can't hear you.
Go ahead. No, I can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Alden.
Joe should be able to unmute him.
I know, Leo, you also had a question.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Leo.
even though I think recreation has had more than its share of CPA money over the years. I have a couple of points that I like about this application. First of all, like Joe mentioned, out of all the recreation money we've spent over the years, not a lot of it's gone to this side of town. And number two, I'm impressed with the money they've raised themselves. So I am in favor of this.
Okay. Are there any more questions about the application itself that need clarification or expansion? Yes, Trudy.
I'm apologize if I missed this because I've been watching the timer and I want to make sure Ernest didn't run over. What's the time frame on this? If you get the monies that you've requested, what's the time frame on all of this?
Thank you, Trudy. Definitely well, my understanding is the ARPA funds, once they're completely settled on who's getting what, are available now. And so we can start with the permitting. You have to have designs and come up with the permitting, but that infrastructure work could be started immediately. And
Good.
the pavilion would be independent again of anything. So once funding is available, once the design is created in a manner that can go in front of a planning board, conservation committee, and other things, we would be able to proceed with that. Those two things could be done very quickly. And then it's a matter of resurfacing the sport court with the available funding when it's available. And then the pumping track or bicycle track could again be done as soon as that funding is available. So really, it could be within a year or so.
Good, thank you, Ernest. Anybody
Madam
else?
Chair, I just want to let you know, Alden is unmuted now if he wants to speak.
Oh, okay, Alden? No, he doesn't hear me.
He's,
Maybe he's rebooting.
John?
Yes, thank you, Ernest and Kate, for the presentation. You mentioned, I think, Ernest, it went by quickly, but you'll also be applying for funds at town meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's something we're discussing with town managers, in that we recognize this is going to be yet another ask at a year when tax rates are going to be very sensitive to the population. So rather than asking for the full amount that we see as the rest of the project, we're asking for a substantial part of that will certainly cover the sport court and the pump track. And then other aspects of it, we're going to apply for the park grant, which does require matching funding. So having funding from the CPC will be useful in that application.
Thank you.
I have a
did we
question.
Yes, Susan?
I was just, is this a prevailing wage project?
I cannot say. That would probably be something the town administrator would have to answer.
But that would play very much into your budget if it is.
Yes,
All right,
that's
just-
correct.
Yeah.
Rick?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also was wondering, because I know all this finance and is tight this year, but I think we should have a discussion on how we can best use some of our funding, maybe at a higher level, to help mitigate some of the implied tax increases for this project for the town. So if it's not at that point, I just wanted to put that up there. That is an option, that we could increase our contribution to take some of that stress off of the town's tax rate. And I think
Yeah,
we
I
should go
agree.
into that conversation.
Yep.
Thank you, Ernest, again. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay. Are there any other comments or particular questions of the applicant at this
Yes.
point?
Alden's back.
Alden's back.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. Very good. Compliments to the Open Space and Rec Committee and Ernest and Kate for a very nicely prepared proposal and presentation. My only question is about parking. Do you think there's really enough? You've got such diverse uses and proximity to the Audubon Cedar Pond trails. I'm wondering if 22 parking spaces is really enough.
Yeah, thank you, Alden. That was a number that was come up by our consultant when they drafted the plan. There was a single pavement that would go from the entrance all the way up the slope. And the DPW has offered to assist with grading and that sort of thing. That going up to the upper slope allows us to have a couple of parking spaces and porta potty type facilities at that level. But then the other spaces down below would be basically gravel. So it would be permeable surfaces, and it's working around the existing trees. Now, the use of that field up there has not been used for large scale sport activities. I think a few of the U10 kids have played on it, but we don't know that we would need many more than 20 places. And regarding the Audubon, I understand that they are also seeking to develop more parking over at the entrance off of Cherry Street.
Yes,
So
that's
it would
right.
be two sides of the Audubon property, which would have parking then.
Yes,
Good.
and that Audubon has been permitted and approved. The
Correct.
parking there.
And,
Thank you, Ernest.
Okay, we're about
oh, sorry.
out of time. Are we not, Trudy? Our 20 minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry. I stopped once the presentation ended.
Oh, okay. No, I wrote down the time he started. And I think we were allocating 20 minutes for presentation
Very
and
good.
questions. So
I'll do better the next time. I'm really sorry.
that's all right, Trudy, you're forgiven. So before I let Ernest and Kate go, does anyone have any other questions of the project? Because this is your opportunity. If not, I will thank you both very much. It was a wonderful
guys.
presentation.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much for your time.
we will see you next time.
Very good. Bye now.
Thank you.
The next application.
Harriet, may I interrupt you for a minute?
Sure.
Just for minutes, and because the agenda did not get amended properly, could you just briefly talk about the HVAC and the security as to why we skipped over those?
We skipped over those because we had voted, as our minutes that we just approved showed, that we did not feel, in fact, let me just go back to the minutes and see the exact wording, which was that they did not meet our criteria. It was let's see, what did it say here? The committee ruled unanimously to take the town of Wenham application for the town hall HVAC system off the list of possible projects, with Mr. Culicito citing his role was based on alternate funding sources. And on the security upgrade, we voted to take it off. Primarily, as I recall, somebody can correct me, they had alternate funding. They were on the approved list of December 20th of last year for funding by ARPA. And there was some question as to whether there was adequate documentation of the costs of those two projects.
Thank you. I just wanted a clarification in case anybody from the public was waiting to hear those.
Right. Okay. Moving on, Harbor Light Community Partners. And I see Kristen Carlson. Are you going to speak on this?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I can.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi. It's okay if I share my screen?
Please.
So you have the floor, Kristen.
Okay, great. Can everyone see this?
I
Yes.
can see it.
Great. Okay, well, thank you. I'm Kristen Carlson. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development at Harbor Light. I work with Andrew DeFranza. We are coming back to the Wenham CPC for our Maple Woods project. It's on 62 Maple Street. This is sort of a site plan of the area. Maple Street is out here. Drive back, there's parking, and then here's our building. So Maple Woods, probably everyone knows this, so I'll just go through it quickly. It is 45 affordable one-bedroom homes for seniors age 62 and over. It will be built, owned, and managed by Harbor Light Homes, also known as Harbor Light Community Partners, a Beverly-based nonprofit. 31 of the 45 one-bedroom apartments, or 69%, will have local preference at the initial lease up, which is 70% is the maximum allowed by the state. And this will help Wenham to meet its 10% requirement on the state supportive housing inventory. So first of all, thank you again for the 2019 award of $750,000 in CPC funding. That was really instrumental in having that robust local funding and getting the rest of the project funded at the state level. So thank you for that. We began construction at the end of last year, and completion will be at the end of this year, this coming December, with people moving in January 2024. So probably everyone is pretty aware of the rising costs, especially in construction. So from the 2019 application to the end of last year, the total development cost for the project went from 17.9 million to 23.2 million, roughly a 30% increase, $5.3 million. That was really driven mostly by construction costs, escalation in wood, pretty much everything. At the same time, interest rates rose in this past year, creating additional budget pressure. In order to solve that budget gap, I'll note that the Wenham Affordable Housing Trust awarded an additional $250,000 award. We secured a bunch of additional state funding, some funding through the North Shore Home Consortium, and loaned our own capital into the project in order to close the funding gap. And so we're requesting this year an award of $150,000 from the CPC to help us finalize the bridge on that cost gap. So what the CPC money is supporting, this project has a lot of green features. I just want to highlight them. This will be a LEED Gold certified project. It will be Energy Star rated. It's all electric, heating and cooling, hot water, with the exception of the emergency generator. Lots of water conservation features, including drought tolerant landscaping, and a solar voltaic system at the roof that will supply about 20% of the power that we need for the project. And this is just sort of a rendering of what one of the units would look like. And that's it. We definitely thank the CPC for taking this application. And, we, again, are very, very grateful for your 2019 award. And certainly wouldn't have come back to ask for more unless we really had to. So thank you for taking our application and considering it. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Alden, yes?
Hi, Kristen. Alden Drake. Thank you for making the presentation. I'm very interested in your energy lead systems. Is it going to be central heating, a single heating system, or individual heating systems? And are heat pumps a part of that system?
Yeah, that's right. There'll be individual heat pumps, one for each unit. So temperature will be controlled individually with a high efficiency heat pump. And then there's an energy recovery system as well.
So is the heat pump, I have a heat pump on my house.
Yeah.
The heat pump, are you relying on that for heat throughout the winter?
We are.
Or do you have a supplemental fossil fuel heating system?
We do not have a supplemental heating system. The envelope on this building, it kind of works in tandem.
Yeah.
The efficiency of the heating system, but also the tightness of the building and the insulation of the building.
Okay.
Because we definitely, when it gets really cold, that's when it can get very expensive to operate.
So has your organization done this kind of HVAC anywhere else using heat pumps? Just heat pumps in this climate?
Yes.
Where?
In Beverly, we've got several new construction that have heat pumps.
Okay, and no fossil fuel heating systems.
No, I think one of them is all electric, including hot water. The other one has gas for the hot water, like the showers and
Yep.
sinks and stuff like that. But the heating and cooling is 100% heat pumps.
Okay, but on this, Maple Woods, is domestic hot water for showers going to also be electric, or is that going to be fossil fueled?
That will be electric as well.
Okay, so you're not going to have any natural gas pipeline coming into the property?
Well,
That's
for the
correct.
generator, maybe.
The generator is, I'm going to have to go back and look now. It's either diesel or propane. So meaning there's a tank as part of the generator that holds the fuel.
Okay. Well, I'm
Okay.
excited. I'm excited to learn more about your project after it's finished and occupied, and you have a couple of years worth of operating costs, because my limited experience tells me that heat pumps in a cold climate are not cost effective compared to natural gas.
Mm.
But you obviously have engineers who have studied this and done all the calculations, and I'm sure they're right. But I'm happily surprised to hear you describe the project this way.
Okay, Alden, thank you very much. Are there
Yep.
any other comments or questions? Rick?
I have,
Oh, Kristen, just following up on Alden, I live in West Wenham, and there is no natural gas pipeline through West Wenham. It stops about Pleasant Street. So that
Okay.
wouldn't have been an option for them anyway. So that may have been part of the consideration as to why they went the way they did.
Yep.
That could be. Susan Malin, did you have a
yeah,
question?
I have a question back to follow up with Alden's remarks. Do people have to pay their own utility bills, or is that included in rent?
Yeah, so all of the utilities are included in rent.
Yeah.
So we bear the risk of utility
Yeah.
costs, not the residents. And that's another reason why solar is so important, because it helps offset some of that
Right.
cost.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Janet, did you have a question?
No, sorry, I was sort of muttering to myself about utilities, Harriet, sorry.
That's all right.
We're talking about electric bills and I thought, oh, God.
I know. I got mine today.
Me
Never
too.
mind. Yes. Any other questions on this? As was
Madam Chair.
noted. Yes, John.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question, Christian. Thank you for the presentation and the detail that you've been providing. On the reason for the application, you mentioned a number of different items that have experienced increases. Do you have specific purchases that you're planning to make with the amount that you're requesting funding for? Or is this going into just sort of a general budget that will be applied to whatever comes up as the project progresses?
It will go into the general budget, but I would say that what this will support is the solar panels that are going to be about $208,000 to put the system on the roof. And that's one of those things that, if we have a shortfall, we have to consider, can we do this? We really want to do it. Can we, fit it in the budget? So this would help us get it sort of over the goal line to be able to include that.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Leo.
I just want to mention, I think this project has been a windfall, a bonanza for the town we've got affordable units to bring us towards our quota for less than 50,000 apiece, where other towns in our town have spent as much as 250,000 a unit to bring in affordables. So and then this project, when it gets going, when it's finally finished, it will support itself. It won't be any drag on the, any adverse impact on the town budget.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I have a question.
Yes?
Once this is all done and people have moved in, will they be paying taxes on this property? It's not
Yes.
tax exempt, right? Okay,
Yes.
Yep, we
Okay.
will.
great, thanks.
As I recall, in the documents that you presented,
Yes.
it's in the range of 50 to 60,000 per year.
That sounds right. Yep.
Okay,
Mhm. I remember asking Andrew about the Turtle Creek ones up in Beverly.
Mhm.
So this was several years ago when this project first came up,
Yeah.
almost a decade ago, at which point he said they were paying around 40,000. But I assume it's higher now.
Yes, it definitely is. And we pay taxes at all of our properties.
Okay.
So one more comment, if I may. Kristen, I
Sure.
echo Leo's comments about what a tremendous resource this is for the town of Wenham. I read the proposal carefully, and it gets us over 10%. It's not just getting us closer to 10%. In the proposal, it says that after these units are, now they're counted because you're under construction, we're now at 11.5% total subsidized housing inventory. And that's a huge benefit to the town of Wenham. I also want to commend you and Andrew and your whole team, because it looks like this was an 8-year process. So I want to tip my hat to all of you for your perseverance, because I know it's not easy.
Amen.
I'll pass that on to Andrew.
All right. Well, Kristen, thank you very much for your presentation. And I was so grateful the day I drove down Maple Street and actually saw construction had started. I didn't know if we'd ever see that day. Congratulations.
Well, thank you all, and we'll look
Thank you,
forward to
Kristen.
welcoming you to
Thank you.
come and take a tour of the building once the framing starts going up.
Absolutely. All right. If not, well, thank you very much. And as I say, we look forward to that walkthrough when you're ready for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, there'll be plenty of opportunities. So thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on. The next item is at least the discussion and possible election of a vice chair. You may recall that Dan Corrin was elected vice chair, and I think the following meeting, due to constraints of his business, he resigned from the committee. So I would entertain at this point a discussion, and if anybody is willing to make a nomination, to hear that nomination. Trudy?
As far as discussion, I think we do need a vice chair. There may be times here that you can't attend, and it would be a good learning
Yep,
curve for future
absolutely.
years. So at that, I would like to nominate Rick Woodland.
Okay. Mr. Woodland, would you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Could I ask a question? I'm sorry to interrupt. Rick's saying yes or no. What exactly would be the role of a vice chair?
Well, I think Trudy pretty much indicated it. It would be a substitute, a fill-in if the chair was unable to attend, and presumably the vice chair might become chair in a year or 2 or 3. It could be seen as a training. It depends on how the vice chair wants to operate. I've been on committees where they did absolutely nothing, and I've been on committees where they were interested and worked on setting the agendas and took a part of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like
Sorry,
to
Rick, I
second-
interrupted whether or not you were going to accept the idea.
My mouth was open. But I see that Alden wanted to ask a question, so.
I'm trying to second your nomination to be vice chair.
You're too kind.
Okay, Rick, did you accept the
yeah,
nomination?
I will accept the nomination. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm
Is there-
seconding.
Is there anyone else who'd like to throw their name into the ring? Hearing none. I believe the rules are in our
Call the roll.
secretary.
Yeah.
Our secretary will tell us that if there is no opposition, that person, that we don't require a vote. Is that right?
That is correct.
That is correct. That's what I thought. Well, congratulations, Mr. Woodland.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
And let me move quickly to the next thing, the new business. Rick did send me an email with a lot of thoughts on this committee. I think, Rick, you did miss the first meeting. And which
did.
we did go over some of these things, but I think it's a very good thing. This is a very new committee. I think Leo and I are the longest with CPA history, and then Janet, and I don't think there's anyone else. Oh, Leo, yeah, Leo, Janet, myself. I think all the rest of you, this is your first year. So
I don't think Rick missed the first meeting. He wasn't appointed, so
Well,
he
that's-
wasn't
all
part of
right,
our
but that's
committee.
what I meant.
Correct.
I don't mean
Right.
to infer that he was, that he didn't show up and he should have.
That he
No,
wa-
he wasn't appointed.
So
You're
he
quite
was not in
correct.
he was not in the Caribbean when we had that meeting.
So therefore, let me go back and remind you that the schedule this year got pushed forward for two reasons. First of all, I think we pushed into January 11th, the date for the submission of applications. And that was essentially a week late from what we have done in other years. Secondly, we were first told by the town administrator that we had to have all our decisions ready for the selectmen by their meeting on the 7th of February, which would mean, which is almost too compact a schedule. It was later moved to the 21st. But if we'd had a little bit more time, I think that we should have had some of those discussions that Rick has brought up in his email. So I don't think we really have time to do it now, but are there any questions that anybody has about the role of CPC, where to get more information? I did share with people the coalition in Boston, which does have an extensive website will answer funding questions, whether your project is suitable for CPC, the history of every town, how much money they have gotten from the override, the surcharge, and from the state match. And so you can spend a lot of time learning a lot about that. So since we do have a few minutes, we could have a little bit of discussion now. Yes, John?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree. This was a great list, Rick. I join many others as a new person on the board. It was helpful to see. And maybe you just answered my question, Madam Chair, but I was wondering, is there any location where I could go as a new member and review some of, or as many as I want, the past applications that were submitted and the votes that were taken by the committee, whether approved or not, and for how much, and so on and so forth? Do we have a centralized location for that type of information?
Well, that would have to be gleaned from the minutes to find the applications that were received and voted upon. This coalition website will describe in detail all the projects that were approved. We've not had, for the past year, adequate staff support. Mercifully, Joe has arrived and he is being very helpful in bridging the gap. So going forward, I think we will have that data. We haven't turned down too many applications. We've underfunded some. One point I should make that many of you may not know is that our surcharge is 3%. That's the highest that's allowed. And therefore, we get 3 rounds of state matching. Hamilton gets the same dollar amount that we do. Remember, they're twice our size because they only voted a 2% surcharge. So they usually just get one round of funding. So when you hear people complain about CPC, when you think that in recent years, we've got 70 to 90% matching funds, I don't know where you're going to get that kind of return. And so the question is, are we spending this money for the good of the town on good projects? So I can send you all the links to the coalition website. And maybe after we make our decisions and report to the selectmen on the 21st, we could easily have another meeting. I know it's sort of after the fact, but we could have a general organizational meeting discussion. Would people like that?
Yeah,
I think
Very much.
I think that's a good idea.
I do
Good.
too.
Good. Then I'll look at the calendar and send out some email and we'll pick a date. The other thing that I've also put down is whether or not we should have a meeting before town meeting. For some reason, it's been a good idea. Sometimes things have come up at the last minute and we meet at, 11:30. If in fact, we're going to do it the same way. I don't know how town meeting is going to be structured this year, but assuming if it's going to be in the Bucher School, we would, at 1 o'clock, we would get together, and whether it'd be a lunch, I don't know. But that's something
Chairman,
else to keep in mind.
Chairman,
Yes, Leo.
I have a comment. And I've mentioned it before, but since there's new members on this committee, I'd like to mention it again. The money we're spending is taxpayers' money. I mean, there's 3% tacked on to everybody's tax bill, and it's getting matched. A certain percentage each year gets matched from the state, but it's the taxpayers' money. In the past, I've felt that some of the members were influenced by either the eloquence of the person presenting the application, or influenced by maybe their own pet desires, like whether it's the pool or whether it's this or whether it's that or the other thing. We have to remember it's not what we like, it's what we feel that the townspeople like. And in fact, I've on some applications in the past, I've asked neighbors what they think of certain applications. So I think that's important for us to remember. This is the taxpayers' money, not ours.
Right. Thank you, Leo. Any other comments at this point?
Thank you, Leo. We all need to remember that, Leo. Thank you.
Can I
Next time,
Could I just add to that?
sure.
I've heard that there's a very active Facebook users group, the Hamilton Wenham community page. And I've heard that there's a lot of dialogue going on in that Facebook group about the tax bills and the increases. I think we would, in the spirit of what Leo just said, I think we all should read that to hear from our neighbors, as Leo has gone out of his way to hear from his neighbors. We need to hear what people are saying in public open forums about those taxes.
And one other point, when we have an application and that entity shows us that they've raised money from the taxpayers towards this project, that's an indication to us also that the taxpayers are for it. And it's probably when they've raised money towards the project, it seems to me it's more worthy of our contribution.
I agree with you, Leo. That's
Yeah.
really important to me.
Rick?
And also from the planning board perspective, we're involved now in a townwide survey, creating a master plan for the year 2023, right? So a lot of these issues are welling up in what people want. So we, as an organization, will have more guidance from this document once it's all pulled together in the next year or so. So there are a lot of things coming together that'll help us be able to understand today what the town is looking for and how do we reach that? How do the constituents have a voice? For example, there are these seminars in a box happening. I'd encourage you all to sign up for one or host one yourself, where you can go out and listen to what the people in the neighborhoods want to hear. And one of them that came up at my meeting, unsolicited by me, was the children who can walk to the West Wenham playground. So that made something for me, is that parking spaces are important, but these are parents that said they would let their kids walk there if there was a safe place for them to go. So it's all good to listen to them.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you for
Okay.
that comment, Rick.
Are there any other comments at this time? So next time, we will hear from the turf or the athletic fields that the school is proposing. We will hear from the Affordable Housing Trust, which is actually interested in just what you were just discussing. They're very concerned about people whose taxes have gone up exponentially, particularly in the lower price points, and really want to help these people being able to stay in Wenham, not by building new buildings as much as there are mortgages and whatnot that can be used. So they are coming. And let's see. The last thing is the Wenham Museum, and they want to create some mini park or common or whatever in front. I just point out to you one thing that I have mentioned to Kristen, is that anything that they do, even if we approve it, has to be approved by the Historic District Commission. Yes, Trudy.
I'm sorry, I just briefly read Rick's email that he sent this afternoon. Can we discuss this Zoom format? Because I just feel like we're all in a box and we don't know who else is attending by the.
Without a doubt. Without a
And,
doubt. I think
I
Joe has
mean,
gotten
wait,
the
excuse me,
message.
let me finish. Please let me finish. I mean, I understand that Kate and Kristen was given special Zoom, but they're still here. So why are they allowed to stay in and the other residents aren't allowed to? I mean, of course they can hear and see us, but we can't see them. That's my understanding. And
So
They
all-
could turn on their cameras. They were on before, all of them were.
No, I meant the attendees.
So all panelists can see, if you go down, Trudy, to your lower left of your screen, there's participants, the button, if you click that.
I understand,
no.
Joe. I've been doing that off and on all through the meeting, but it would just be nice if we could see them so that as if we were all in the same room.
I think we made this very clear at the last meeting. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Trudy, that we would like everyone on the same Zoom so that we can see everyone, they can see us, and it makes it much more positive in a small town. Right now, we cannot see them. If for no other reason, we're all in this together. We are a committee. There are people that are concerned. They come on, I don't mean concerned in a bad way, who are interested. And as we talked about last week, and I think we made it very clear last week, Joe, that we want, and you explained why you couldn't do it for tonight, which I understand. But I think last meeting, we made it very clear, we would like this to be all of us on the same Zoom. And Trudy's right. Right now, we have people who, Kristen, no offense meant to you, but Kristen is still on this. And Joe, at this point in time, Kristen should not be a member of what we're doing. She should be not on where we are, because Joe Jones, who lives on Main Street in Wenham, who's interested, is not able to be on with us face to face. and that person is a taxpayer. I think it's pretty simple. This is what we asked for last time. It needs to happen for the next meeting.
I think, Joe, you do feel that that will happen next time. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
Joe
Thank you.
said that he
So-
would do it for the next time, but he also ended that with, he believes we shouldn't do that. But who's in charge? This is our committee.
Janet, we're gonna override that. We're going to go back to the old system,
So the
I
old
like it.
system, right?
the old system, the way it was, so we could
Okay.
see everybody that was on the call. Yes, so
And
John.
so they can,
Uh,
and so they can see us and we can see them. We're all in
Right.
this together.
Right. John,
Madam Chair, what's the timetable for meeting in person? And why haven't, and if so, if we can do it now, why don't we?
Yeah,
well, there are some pros and cons. Some people like the flexibility of the Zoom. It allows people who are out of town or who work late, you know, to come in that way. It's also a little bit more labor intensive. I don't think any board but the selectmen have done it. Well, I think the Affordable Housing Trust has met, but they're a smaller board with 9 of us. Joe, how would the room, we'd meet in the selectmen's room and we set other tables to maintain some distance, or how would it work?
Yeah, I don't see why the committee couldn't use that room if they wanted to. I could, make sure it's booked and make sure there's enough space that should, as long as there's not another meeting going on.
Madam Chairwoman, I would just like that we need to be able to do a hybrid mode, because I don't want to see the public who might want to be with their kids at dinner time or doing some other work at home excluded from an in-person meeting. So we do need to have that hybrid thing. That would also allow John, that would also allow us members like me that work sometimes late to be able just to dial in and be part of the meeting without having
Exactly.
to drive to Wenham. So
That
this
would be
hybrid
my
thing,
case also. Zoom works much better for me.
Yeah.
but we
Now,
just need to give people
Joe, what
options
is
now that
the
we have.
timetable for hybrids for non-selectmen committees?
I think the law expires, I believe, in March
Well,
of this
that's
year.
different, March 31st, but I'm talking about now, about hybrids. I mean, the mechanics of it.
Yeah, they're usually, so, I'll have to check with the town administrator, but I think normally someone from the committee would just have to set up the OWL if you do want to use like a hybrid mode, whereas the members would be in person and the public would be remote. I'm not sure what the town policy is if a hybrid meeting is being conducted and a board member or a committee member wants to be remote as well. If
I
that-
know,
There is-
so could
There
you
is a
get,
policy.
I'd have
Joe,
to check
could you,
that. I have
Thank
to
you.
could
Please
you-
check that, please. Thanks.
Yes.
would you find out that? I know it was discussed a bit before about who would be running it, how it would be running and so forth, and where the public could be or not be. I think it may not be ready for prime time, certainly not for our next meeting. But I think down the road, I think it would appeal to a lot of people to be able to meet in person. So Joe, you will send out some
Yes.
information on that? Thank
Yes.
you. Okay. Thank you, Janet, for making that so clear.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, are we ready for a motion to?
I think so.
So,
You can
Mr.
count,
Chairman,
those of you who are new, you will know that Leo always does this.
Okay, Leo, we're ready. We're ready, Leo.
I would like to move adjournment.
Is there
Second,
a
I
second?
second,
Okay, roll call vote. Trudy,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Alden,
yes.
Susan.
yes.
Vote carried unanimously. We are adjourned. We'll see you on, what is it, February 9th? Is that right?
7th, isn't it?
7?
Isn't it the
7,
7th?
Ninth.
The ninth.
It's the
No.
ninth.
not 7, right?
The 9th.
Ninth.
The ninth.
Yeah, I thought it was the 9th. Now,
Okay.
that's the meeting where I
Good night,
believe.
everybody. We're
Wait a minute.
adjourned.
Harriet, wait, Harriet, isn't that the meeting where the school said they wanted
Yes,
to meet
that's what I
early?
was gonna say. Joe, would
But
you
I don't get it.
confirm?
Why,
We didn't agree to let them meet early.
no, why
I
would we
know.
do that? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
What
not to
did
be a
you-
jerk, but when we meet, I don't know,
Right.
whatever.
Wait,
Yeah.
do we need
That's
to
right.
reopen the meeting? Do we need to reopen the meeting to discuss this?
Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah, let's make a motion to I'll make a
Okay.
motion to reopen the meeting, please.
Is there a second?
Sure.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
Aye.
Leo, Susan,
No,
yeah,
Alden,
Yes.
Janet?
Yeah,
Me, yes, okay,
I,
so,
I make a motion that we keep our meeting at 6:30.
is there a
yes.
second?
Second,
Second.
Any
Okay.
discussion?
Joe, can you
me-
speak
I-
to these?
I just want to mention I was, the superintendent was, he, for his presentation, I believe he said it had to be, 6 o'clock, but I'll confirm that. I just wanted to throw that out there. I have to double check with them.
no, he has to do it at our convenience and
That
our
doesn't work for
normal
us.
meeting time.
Yeah,
We
that
can't-
doesn't
we
work
can't-
for us, Joe.
No, we can't be switching around for everybody. And what makes him different? Nothing.
Right.
he actually said 6 o'clock, preferably 5:45.
I know.
And he
That's
what he
wanted
said.
45 minutes for his
No,
slideshow and
40,
They
but
did-
we carried up. I don't mean to disagree with you, but I think he said 45 minutes.
I
45,
double
yes,
check. It would-
45.
Right, oh, 45,
Yeah.
that's what you said.
It would be
Yeah.
20
So
minutes.
I-
I did double check.
No,
So
gets
unless
20.
it's some major crisis a week and so from now, he needs
Can
to
I
come
just
when
make a
we come and,
suggestion?
Yep.
That he would be the first presentation that we hear
Right,
at 6:30.
at 6:30.
at 6:30. We
Very
can
reasonable.
defer
That's
minutes and
reasonable.
whatnot till afterwards, as we've done before.
And is
Open up a
someone going
public
to tell
comment
him
and
it
then
will
his first
only be 20
presentation.
minutes?
Wait a minute, wait, I can't hear everybody.
Sorry, I
I'm
interrupted.
sorry,
I'm
just
sorry.
just start the meeting with the open public comments like we always do and then go right into his presentation.
We
Yeah.
can.
And will someone tell him it's only can be 20 minutes?
I
20
did tell him.
minutes.
I did tell him.
You
Okay.
did tell him, Joe. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, 6:30 for 20 minutes.
Yes, Susan. All right, motion to adjourn?
So moved,
Again.
Mr. Chairman.
So
It goes-
moved. Leo, I
Seconded.
beat you.
We beat him, I know.
Okay, Trudy,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Alden,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
John, Janet.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we are now officially doubly
All right.
adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.